Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can all of you hear me? All right, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa amma ba'd. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. So Alhamdulillah, we are in the month of Sha'ban and we're fast approaching the first of Ramadan. This month of Sha'ban was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was extremely focused in preparing for the month of Ramadan. All right, before I start, can all of you hear me? Is the voice okay? Loud enough? All right, good. So most of you can hear me fine. So this month of Sha'ban was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was extremely focused and thinking and planning for the month of Ramadan. So much so that, in fact, not just Sha'ban, but before Sha'ban, the month of Rajab, the Prophet ﷺ would start making dua, very famous dua, that Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. That, oh Allah, bless us and put barakah in this month of Rajab, in the month of Sha'ban, and enable all of us to reach this month of Ramadan in a state where we are prepared and we can take maximal benefit from this coming month. And the month of Ramadan is the spring season for a believer. It's a season where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmat, it comes down. It's the month of mercy. It's the month of forgiveness. It's the month of Quran. It's the month which can transform and change a person's life. It's the month where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down His maximal mercy. So truly, it's a springtime for a believer. And the barakat and the blessings of Ramadan, interestingly, they begin much earlier. And that is what the Prophet ﷺ is highlighting in this hadith. So it's not that the first Ramadan comes and then the barakat and the blessings begin, but in fact, much, much before, much earlier, the barakat, they begin. In fact, the scholars, they explain that the tremendous, manifold, multiple barakat and blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down in the month of Ramadan, they already begin in the month of Sha'ban. They start to trickle in. And with every passing day, they just keep on increasing and increasing and increasing. So much so that 1 or 2 days before Ramadan, it's almost like the blessings of Ramadan are completely fully there. Imam Rabbani, Sheikh Ahmed Sirindi Rahmatullah alayhi, is given a beautiful way, an example to explain this scenario. He says that if you look at Fajr time, when the Fajr time begins, so it's still night at that time, and the time for Fajr begins. You can pray your Fajr. It's dark, and gradually, with every passing minute, the sun rays they begin to trickle in, even though the sun hasn't come out. The sunrise will happen about 1.5 hours later, but gradually the light begins to increase. The rays of sunlight they come on the horizon. You look outside, you might see that the sky is no longer black, it's now becoming light. You see the light outside, and some of you might have observed this, that if you wake up for Fajr, but you're very late, and maybe like 10, 15 minutes before the actual sun comes out. So if you happen to look outside of your window, you might see that there is so much sunlight already there. You might think that maybe the sun has already come in, has already come out, even though it's not sunrise yet. But there is still so much light there. So this is how he explains that just like the light, it begins to it begins with the start of Fajr, but it's still dark at that time. And then more and more light comes. So much so that maybe 5 or 10 minutes before sunrise, the whole horizon, the entire sky is full of light. Similarly, before the month of Ramadan appears, just like before the sun appears, there is a lot of light that spreads the sky. Just like that, before the month of Ramadan starts, the blessings and the barakat of Ramadan, they start to flood the sky. They start to flood our lives. With every passing day, these barakat are increasing. These blessings are increasing. And especially, we are already in Sha'ban. It's not the first of Sha'ban. We have spent, I think, 6, 7 days already. So the process has already started. And now, with every passing moment, the light and the noor and the blessings and the barakat, these are going to increase with every passing moment. And that is why it's especially important for all of us that we take a benefit from this time that Allah has given us. Maybe we were not able to prepare in Rajab, the month of Rajab passed by. We were busy in other things, in other engagements and other commitments. We were not maybe aware or heedless or forgetful or busy or whatever. We lost our time. We lost that month. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has still given us this opportunity. We have almost this month of Shaban. And it's an abbreviated package, like Sunnah package was 2 months. But if you can even use this 1 month that Allah has given us, just a Shaban, like people have various Hajj packages, 40-day package, 35-day, 20-day, 15-day express. Allah has given us this opportunity. This is a month truly that we should use to prepare for the Ramadan, for the coming of Ramadan. And you can imagine that, like a student, someone goes to university, they have their final exams coming up, maybe 3 weeks before the final exam. They start getting prepared for it. They're thinking about their exam. They're thinking more and more about their exam. And then they enter this complete preparation mode. They just enter into a particular zone. And in that zone, the only thing they can think about is their final exam. And that really is what the Sunnah sensibility is, the Sunnah sensitivity is, that Sunnah awareness and consciousness is, that was the outlook of the Prophet ﷺ, that as Ramadan is approaching and throughout Shaban, This is what the Prophet ﷺ was extremely focused about, preparing for the month of Ramadan. Or imagine maybe a person who has a court case coming up or some other type of difficulty, just 4 or 5 days before that decision of the court, before the court announces their sentence. That's the only thing a person can think about. So that is the feeling that we're supposed to get, that the feeling we're supposed to experience in these days. Sunnah is not just about actions. Inshallah, we'll come to actions. What are the sunnah actions we should be doing? But it's important that we understand that sunnah also refers to the feelings that the Prophet ﷺ had, the outlook, the temperament, the mizaj, that inner emotions and thoughts that the Prophet ﷺ had. And that is what this hadith is highlighting. That especially here in the month of Sha'ban, and then as every passing day, the Prophet ﷺ would start to almost only be thinking about the month of Ramadan, be preparing for the month of Ramadan and remembering Ramadan, and extremely focused in preparing for the month of Ramadan. So that's the feeling that we need to carry in these days. That Ramadan is coming, Ramadan is coming, Ramadan is coming. And we keep thinking about that. Keep that feeling alive, that sensitivity alive, that outlook should be there, that temperament. And why is this important? Because if we keep reminding ourselves and keep feeling this month of Ramadan that is about to come, then inshallah, when the month of Ramadan comes, we will be able to benefit more. This is kind of a mental preparation, a spiritual preparation, a psychological preparation. So if we spend these days spending as much as we can thinking and feeling, and we'll also come to the actions, the ibadat and fasting, but also planning in advance that Ramadan is coming, scheduling. And when we do these things emotionally and mentally and in our heart psychologically and spiritually, doing all of these things would help us become prepared for the month of Ramadan. So this is very important. And this is also one of the reasons why we started this series, that we want to use this series as a way, this program, weekly programs, inshallah, we'll have one program every week. We want to use it as a way, and then this is, you can have local programs at the places where you're in. If you live in Muslim communities, maybe different programs in different masajid, try to partake from those programs, try to partake and benefit, and try to put yourself in that zone spiritually and emotionally and mentally, that Ramadan is coming. Now, Ramadan is coming. Ramadan is the, like we said, the best opportunity that we have to fix everything in our life. Fix our dunya by making du'as to Allah for our dunya, and most importantly, to come back to our Rabb. The reason why we have difficulties and we have these uh, uh, tests in our life is that Allah wants to come back. Allah wants us that we should come back to Him. And we make mistakes, we commit sins, we need to return back to Allah. Ramadan is the best opportunity to patch up with our Lord. Allah makes it easier for us to leave sin, to mend our ways, to rectify. We spend 11 months of the year in ghafla, 10 months of the year in heedlessness. Allah gives us every year this opportunity in the form of Ramadan. But the easiest way that you can benefit most from Ramadan is that if you work hard in Sha'ban, if you prepare in Sha'ban. It's so interesting. For everything important in our dunya, we make preparations in advance. A wedding, we prepare 1 year in advance. The dress should be like this, the program, the venue, the food. We plan in advance for our vacations. We plan in advance that I want to travel, so I need to buy my tickets in advance. We plan in advance for everything, for every major event in our life. And yet, Ramadan, which is the most important spiritual event of the year, and we leave it to the last moment. And for some of us, when the Ramadan starts, and then we come into the groove of fasting, and then we start, Ramadan, we haven't prepared. So this is really one of the most spiritually important event of the whole year. And we need to prepare for this, like we prepare for things in the dunya. Ramadan, if you can prepare, if you can do that, it can be a life-changing experience. It can take a person to a point of no return. One can leave sins in such a way that one will never be able to fall into that sin again. One can get attached to Allah in such a way that they can never be detached from Allah ever again. But for that, we need to prepare. For that, we need to work in Sha'ban. What happens normally is that we don't prepare in Sha'ban. First Ramadan comes, and then we start fasting. And then initial 5, 6, 7 days, they are spent just getting into the habit of fasting physically, waking up at a particular time, tahajjud, and then physically our body is getting used to the fast. And then the next 7, 8, 10 days, we spend getting used to fasting spiritually, getting to spiritually prepare. And then finally, in the last 10 days, we start getting something from Ramadan. We feel we're getting the effects. We feel something. We feel close to Allah. And many of us, I think we can narrate this. We can say this, that yes, in the last 10 days, we do ibadah, we feel something in the sajda, we make some du'as. So those last 10 days, we're getting something, but then suddenly Ramadan ends. And we wish we could have prolonged that. And when Ramadan ends, very quickly, whatever we got in those last days, we lose that as well. First few days of Shawwal, we lose whatever we got in the last 10 days of Ramadan. So Ramadan, we do get something, we get an effect, but then there is no after effect. There is no continuation of that. We don't see that after the continuation of that after Ramadan. So if this year, how can we change this? If this year, if we can start the preparation before, if we begin the process in Sha'ban, then by the time first Ramadan comes, we are already prepared. We are already prepared. We can start taking from day one. And inshallah, if we take for all these 30 days and we are already prepared, in fact, we're taking it from right now, purifying our heart, polishing our heart, repenting to Allah, making tawbah, turning back to Allah, patching up. And then we are trying to increase in our ibadah. We are fasting and we're doing all of these things. And then when Ramadan starts, we start to get into Ramadan. Then when Ramadan will end, those things will stay with us, inshallah. So if we have to start, why not start this process earlier? One of the things that deceives us is that we think in the dunya, about the dunya, we give our level best in everything. We work so hard, we work so consistently, we try to be very fit, try to be very active. But for some reason, when it comes to deen, even though there's so much potential that is within us, we are young, intelligent, active, able, healthy, have all the resources available for us, but yet we miss out on the depth of our deen. We miss out because of our laziness. Sometimes we say, I just want balance in my life, moderation in my life. That's such a shame that in dunya, we don't use the word balance and moderation. We go the whole way. We do everything. We do the utmost. We want the best. We want the greatest. We want the most. We're willing to sacrifice our sleep, our food, our other activities, our other engagements just to get more dunya. But for some reason in deen, we just use these words moderation, balance, and we lose out. We miss out on the depth, on the incredible depth, the intensity that Allah has kept in the deen of Islam. If that same attitude, that hardworking attitude that we have for the dunya, working consistently, if we can just bring that attitude here for the deen as well, just take that example here, then this month can truly be a month that can change a person's destiny. Because Ramadan is the month of this intense, maximal mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on one hand is willing to wipe away an entire lifetime of sin. A person who spent, let's say, 80 years of their life sinning, rebelling, transgressing the boundaries of Allah, spreading corruption, chaos, committing all kinds of vulgar, obscene, indecent things, indecent sins. Yet if they now 80, when they've no strength left with them, not much life left, still if they come back to Allah, the month is so incredible. The intensity of Allah's mercy is so incredible. It's so strong. It's enough to wipe away all the sins. And not just to wipe away all the sins, Allahu Akbar, Allah will wipe away the records of sins. Allah will make the angels, Allah will wipe it away from the memory of angels. Allah will wipe it from the book of deeds. Allah will wipe it from the memory of the limbs through which we committed that sin. Allah will wipe it away from the memory of the piece of land on which we committed that sin. Whatever record, Allah completely wipes it away as if we have never even sinned. This is so incredible. In the dunya, they keep a record. Even if they say that you are innocent, they still maintain a record. Allah completely destroys all the record, as if this person has not even sinned. And on top of that, if a person makes like a true tawbah, Allah can transform those sins into their good deeds. Allah will transform those sayyi'at into hasanat. So this is the intense mercy of Allah, that it can wipe away the entire lifetime of sin, wipe away all and every trace and record of sin. And more than that, it can wipe away all the negative repercussions and consequences of sins that we might be experiencing in our life. Sins have consequences. We may not realize this. We may not be looking. We may not be aware, but sin has a consequence. Ice is cold. Fire is hot. Sins, they bring worry into our lives. Sins bring an onslaught of worries in our life. This is Quran, Azim wa Shan. Allah says in Quran very clearly, very explicitly, that in asabako, that if there's some musibah that comes to you, some calamity that comes to you, then this is something which you yourself have earned with your right hands. You have earned with your hands. So this is something which is of your own doing. Sins, they bring an onslaught of worries. They bring this darkness, emptiness, restlessness in the heart. They bring a lack of barakah in our wealth, in our health, in our time. They bring this distance between us and Allah. Allah is close to us. Allah is qareeb to us. Allah is near to us. Allah is with us. But when we sin, we don't feel that nearness. We don't feel that closeness. We feel as if Allah is some distant entity. We feel that we begin to have doubts in our iman. We feel that I don't feel like praying. I don't feel like reciting Quran. I don't feel like doing zikr. That tawfiq for ibadah, that lazzat, that joy of ibadah is taken away. These are all the sins Allah has mentioned. These are all the effects of sins. Then the beautiful thing about this month is when Allah wipes away the sins, Allah also removes all the effect of sins. This is the month of Allah's mercy. And the second way this intense rahmat of Allah comes down is that Allah makes available to you. Allah makes available for us every single thing in the deen. Every single thing in the deen is available in this month. things that a person might have heard about, their names like tahajjud and sabr and shukr and wilayat and haya, all everything that you have heard about in deen, all of that is available in Ramadan. Imagine like a world-class chef, right? They have this award-winning cuisine where you have every single type of dish in a buffet, and you can pick and choose whatever you like. That's what Allah is giving to us in Ramadan. You have the entire award-winning cuisine of the Deen of Islam in front of you, and you can pick and choose whatever you like. You want the whole package, the everything, all the dishes, Allah will give it to you. Allah can give you that nourishment because the month of Ramadan is to nourish us. But this nourishment will happen based upon our appetite. How hungry we are for this, how thirsty we are for this. We have to build our appetite. We have to whet our appetite. So this Sha'ban, if you continue with this analogy, is the month to build your appetite. Allah, I want everything. I won't just limit and restrict myself to one or two dishes, just maybe one, tahajjud or maybe reciting Quran or just fasting. I won't just limit myself to those things. I want the whole thing, the whole package. This is the month to build our appetite, to show Allah, to realize Allah, how hungry we are, how starved we are. Allah, I'm spiritually malnourished, malnutritioned. Allah, I'm waiting now. So we need to build our appetite because if we come with this appetite, then Allah will feed us. Allah will nourish us. Ramadan is the month when Allah will nourish us. We'll come out of Ramadan fully nourished, fully nurtured. So building our appetite. Mulana Rumi Rahmatullah in one place he says that the water thirsts for that individual who thirsts for it. Any water is thirsty for that person who has a thirst for the water. So we have to build this thirst for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will give us. Allah will give His own self to us, His own love, His own ta'alluq, His connection with Him. Allah will give that. Allah will gift that. But we need to use this opportunity to build our appetite. And this is really the first thing that we want to mention now practically. That practically speaking, what are the actions we should be doing in Sha'ban every day? The first daily action is simply that whet and build this appetite. Make this intention every day and renew this intention every day that Allah, I want in this Ramadan, I want the whole package. Allah, I'm not just going to settle for one or two things, just for Iman and bare level Iman and just fasting and Taraweeh and maybe reciting one Quran. I want, Allah's mentioned levels in the Quran. Yes, we start with Iman, the mu'mineen, but then Allah mentions other categories. The Shakireen, people who are grateful to Allah. The Mutawakkilin, those who put their trust upon Allah, those who have absolute yaqeen and trust upon Allah. Then Allah mentions the awliya, those who are the friends of Allah, the intimate companions, the dear and the near friends of Allah, wilaya. About this wilaya, Allah says that la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. That those who get this wilaya, they have no fear in this life. They have no sadness in their life. Allah gives them divine contentment. Whatever state, ups and downs in their life, their heart remains in a state of contentment. They're razi with the raza of Allah. They're pleased with the decree of Allah. Allah gives them that maqam. There are people, Allah mentions, there is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be some people in Jannah who will not be amongst the Nabiyyin, not be amongst the prophets, will not be amongst the Shuhada, the martyrs. But on that day in Jannah, the prophets and the martyrs will be looking at these individuals and they will be envying them. They will be doing rashk, envying them, that looking at the maqam, the rank that Allah would have blessed them. that they would be seated on these mimbar of light, of nur, and such a high rank that the prophets would be looking and would be envying them. So this is the deen. Allah mentions muqarraboon, that the categories in Jannah. You have the people of the right hand, and people who are the muqarrab, those who are close to Allah, brought close to Allah by Allah Himself, will be in the highest levels. So why settle for just a D minus when Allah is offering to us an A plus? That's what is on the table. So this is the first practical step, to make this intention every day in Sha'ban, renew it every day, that Allah, in a Ramadan, I want Allah, I want you. And I want everything that is pleasing to you. Allah, I want to change myself. I want everything about my life to be changed. And I want to make myself according to you, according to your pleasure, according to your rada. So that's how strong an intention we should have. Because truly, Ramadan is a very strong program. It's a very intense program. And you can only benefit from it truly if we bring that intensity in our talab, in our desire, in our feelings, in our intentions. Allah, I want the whole thing. Allah, I want to come close to you. I want to become your friend, your wali, your khalil, your muqarrab. I want to know you. I want to attain ma'rifah. I want to attain your muhabba, your love. So this is the first, that make this intention. Remember, Ramadan is not just about fasting. It's not just only staying away from food and drink and lawful relations. Ramadan, like we said, is a month where Allah is giving you the whole deen, wants to give you the whole deen. It's an opportunity where we can change everything about our life, our entire life. So we shouldn't underestimate. First thing is niyat. Innamal a'malu bin niyat. Actions are judged by intention. And the barakah of this niyat, if we make right now, is that if we are for some reason unable to do these actions, unable, right, to do these amal, then at least our intention will be recorded. That Allah, I was weak. I failed in terms of my actions. But Allah, I wanted you. I wanted to change myself. This was my intention. Allah, I wanted to change. I wanted you. I wanted your closeness. I wanted your nearness. So sometimes this intention, if it's made with sincerity, with purity, with a humility, Allah can use that humility, the barakah of that intention, and Allah can grant us tawfiq. We might think that how can I change? It's not how we can do. Allah will make us change. Allah can do it for us. And Allah can do it for us if we show our thirst, if we show that yearning, if we show that longing, and show that by your intentions. Make du'as. Allah, I want this. I want this. I don't want to lapse. I don't want to slip. I want to become your wali. Now, for the more practical things to do, next is that we should do nafil fasting in this month. There are several ahadith, authentic ahadith, that mention that other than Ramadan, there is no other month in which the Prophet ﷺ used to fast more than Sha'ban. And there are several benefits, several wisdoms, points of reflection behind this act of fasting, as to why the Prophet ﷺ used to fast so much in Sha'ban. So if we think fasting, if we do, this will, number one, help us get back into the habit and the manner of fasting physically. Because many of us, we may not have fasted for the last 9-10 months. We perhaps were not able to rise up and eat suhoor, and then so we need to come back into that groove of fasting physically, of rising up at a particular time, eating say suhoor, and then praying Maghrib and then making dua. So iftar. So starting early, it helps us to get back into that physical mode. And then secondly, also it helps us to get back into the spiritual groove of fasting. Because when you wake up for suhoor, how many times did we wake up in the last 10, 11 months? This was a blessed time, and many times we just slept through it. This extremely blessed time, we missed that time. Now the barakah of fast is that when we wake up for our suhoor, we get this time, which is the last one third of the night, which is one of the most blessed times. And we can use that time and do ibadah and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are two special times when duas are accepted. One is the time for suhoor, which we get when we are fasting. Suhoor time, right before the Fajr starts, is a time when Allah's mercy, it descends on the lowest of the earth, the lowest of the ard. It's closest to us. And it's the most blessed time when there's an announcer who's announcing that is there anyone who will seek forgiveness from Allah, that Allah shall forgive them for their sins? Is there anyone who will make some request, has a need that Allah will fulfill their need? Is there anyone who has some calamity that they wish that Allah would remove that calamity and Allah would remove that calamity for them? This announcement continues all the way till Fajr Azan. So we get this opportunity to make dua at that time. And then the second is the time when we break our fast. Last few minutes before Maghrib, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Again, many of us, we may not be making duas in our regular routine, but by the barakah of fast, normally this is a time when a person feels like making dua. And also it's a time when the Prophet ﷺ said that the duas of a fasting person are accepted when they break their fast. And the reason is very simple, that when the laborer, they complete their task, their assignment, then they expect a wage from their master. So the person who fasted, they completed their fast for their master, for Allah Ta'ala, and now Allah becomes so happy that Allah gives them their wages. The difference is that in the dunya, we set our rate before. If I call an electrician, I say that you have to fix this bulb. We settle that, okay, if you fix this bulb, I'll give you this much. We settle the amount beforehand. But in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the master. Allah Ta'ala is Malikul Mulk. Allah Ta'ala is the shan of Allah is so incredible that Allah doesn't settle the amount. Allah says, just fast for my sake, for my pleasure. And then when the time comes for you to break this fast, when you have completed your task or assignment, then I will give you your wage. I will not write down the amount of wage for you. You will write down the wage yourself. Allah gives us a blank check. Make whatever dua you like. Make whatever dua that you want to. Allah has given that to us. People can write whatever they want. They can make whatever dua they like. It's a blank check that Allah Ta'ala is giving us. So we get the barakah of these two blessed times. We we are able to make dua. We are able to pray tahajjud. So this is one of the best ways to prepare for Ramadan. That you pray in tahajjud, in Sha'ban, before the Fajr, after which you will have a fast. You make a dua in the last few minutes, and then again you spend the day in fasting. And at the time of Maghrib, you break your fast and you make dua at that time as well. Another thing about the fast is when you are fasting and when you're making duas, the reason why you will want to make duas is because fasting is an ibadah. And depending on where you are, in which part of the world you will be, your fast will either be for 12 hours or 13 or 14 or 15. It will vary from place to place. But remember that when a person is fasting, they are in a state of continual ibadah for every single second. Every single second, you are in a state of ibadah. And this is so beautiful. Allahu Akbar. That how many of us can say that previously I did ibadat of Allah for 12 hours consecutively? Is there any act of worship that I can say, that we can say? that I was worshipping Allah consecutively for 12, 13 hours of the day. And yet, when a person fasts, that is exactly what they're doing. They are perpetually, continuously, every single moment, they are in a state of ibadah, in a state of worship, which means that when you are doing ibadah, Allah Ta'ala is pouring, showering noor into your heart, showering His blessings and mercies and barakat, anwarat, fiyuzat into your heart. All words mentioned in the Quran. And your heart feels it. And the sign that your heart feels it is that the heart is softened. By the time you're about to break your fast between Asr and Maghrib, that is the time when the heart is really is feeling all of that noor. And that's why dua comes automatically. It comes from the heart. You feel like making dua. You're also hungry, the food is there, you're about to break your fast, but you feel like making dua. And then those moments when you make dua, the duas, they come from the depth of the heart. If only a person is slightly attentive, otherwise, normally we make dua, we're making dua, Rabbana, Zalamana, Anfusana. It's just words. We're just copying the words of duas, not making duas. There's a difference between making dua and copying the words of duas. We have to make dua with the heart. We have to be attentive. We can't make duas with heedless hearts. We have to make dua with humility, with the certainty, with the adab, with the etiquettes. And fasting helps us, generates those adab because a person feels humility. A person also has this certainty that this is a time when dua will be accepted. They have worshipped Allah for 12 hours. That has a natural effect. It softens. It softens. The hardness of the heart goes away. The blackness, the ghafla, the heedlessness, that goes away. The rust begins to, it's washed away. And then the heart automatically, there's a shara sadr, there is a want, the desire to make dua. The duas come automatically from the heart, and those duas, they're not accepted readily in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So such a tremendous fayda and benefit of fasting. And the other thing about fast is when you're making duas, this will also help us remember our previous Ramadan. You start remembering, okay, this was my schedule like last year. And when I used to make dua at the time of tahajjud, I used to make these duas. And all of those duas will come back to you. And you will realize that, oh, I spent this whole interim time between. I forgot those duas. I never made those duas. And now Allah gives us this opportunity. We get this opportunity that now we can start. We are reminded of those duas. We can start making those duas again. It comes flooding back. The previous Ramadan, the duas that I used to make in the last 10 nights, the odd nights of Ramadan, the pledges that I made to Allah back then, the promises that I made to Allah Ta'ala. I said to Allah that I'll do this for you. Allah, I won't do this sin. So our pledges, our promises, our commitments, our intentions, our duas that we made, all of that comes back. Yes, we may have forgotten them, but we come back. You remember your previous Ramadan. And that also helps us because now we can start those duas back again. We can seek forgiveness from Allah's path, that Allah forgive us for that ghafla, and Allah now accept this. And also for those of us now, a legal point here about fasting is that many times we have missed our fard fast. We may not have been very meticulous about our fasting, maybe at some point in our life. In our earlier stage, maybe missed a few fasts. For the women, maybe there were days when they were not supposed to fast, they had to make it up, and yet we haven't been able to make up our fast. So this is a concept of qaza fast, and we can make a niyat of the qaza fast as much as possible in this month as well. And in any way, it's sunnah to fast on Monday and Thursday. It's sunnah to fast on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of this month. So might as well fast on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of this month. In fact, it's mustahab. Some scholars, they say that fast on 13th, 14th, and 15th. And also, we'll come to the night of the 15th of Sha'ban. Uh, the 15th, the night of the 15th of Sha'ban is also really Shab-e Bara'a. It's a night when a person's sins are forgiven. So it's better that you follow that night with a fast the other day. So we cannot really overstate the benefit of fasting in this month. So that's the second advice, second practical action. The third practical step is that we should try to clear out things in Shaban to free ourselves up for Ramadan. Try to clear up, try to finish everything uh, so that we have now time for Ramadan. Meaning that ideally we should try to now lessen the load. And things which need to be sorted out, we should divide them into two categories. Things that need immediate attention, they should be taken care of right now, so that we are not stuck doing them in Ramadan. Try to complete those tasks which require immediate attention, get them out of the way right now. We want to free time for ourselves in Ramadan. And those tasks that can be delayed beyond Ramadan, then delay them after Ramadan onto Shawwal. So put things in these two baskets, Sha'ban and Shawwal. And even if you are putting so many things in Sha'ban, so many things in Shawwal, don't feel bad about that because you're freeing yourself up for Ramadan. Every moment of Ramadan is so powerful that it can make a person a wali of Allah, friend of Allah. Every moment has that potential. We'll have a whole talk, inshallah, about Ramadan and the fazail and the virtues and merits of Ramadan, but every moment is so powerful. So we don't want to waste our time doing things which we could do right now. So get them out of the way right now. And in fact, in one sense, it's actually good that if you can put things after Ramadan, it's good because then you will have a very busy post Ramadan, which is excellent. Because the more busy you are, the less chances of sinning. Because this is a problem that many people have, that they have a good Ramadan, but Ramadan ends, post Ramadan, they're now free time. And free time, person, they go astray. Person, they go in the wrong direction. Free time. Shaitan attacks our free time. So don't keep yourself busy with productive things in the dunya, work, career, job, deen. That's one of the best ways to retain your Ramadan, to have a busy post Ramadan. If you give yourself 2 weeks off and relax, very easy to lose Ramadan very quickly. So we want to be free in Ramadan as much as possible. And for that, we should try to plan either Shaban or do things after Ramadan. And these are not just things like meetings and other tasks, even emotional, even conversations, even if you have violated someone's rights. Now is the time. Now is the time to patch up. Ramadan, don't delay it all the way till Ramadan. Ramadan, there are other things that you can do in Ramadan. Ramadan, you can spend for hukukullah. Take care of your hukukul ibad right now. Don't delay. If we have violated other people's rights, we backbited against them, we took money from some, we said bad things about someone, we were unjust with someone, we took something that doesn't belong to us, we said something rude, we are not talking to someone, not on talking terms, we have some issues going on in our life, in some relationships, whether with our parents or friends or any other person, we should take this time of Shaban and try to sort out all those emotional issues right now. Have all those conversations right now. Patch up right now. Reconcile right now. Do sulah right now. So that your spirituality is not affected by these issues in Ramadan. So that in Ramadan, you are not hampered by this sadness, by this anxiety, by this stress, this emotional emotions. Rather, you are completely focused and ready in Ramadan for Allah. You can be focused single-mindedly, you can be focused and be attentive towards Allah Ta'ala. So take care of these conversations. And also another thing we can do is that we should try to do muhasaba. Muhasaba means that we should bring ourselves to task, because many times we don't even realize that we are committing sins. It's a two-step process. First, we need to reflect that where am I going wrong? What are the things that I'm doing which are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ehsas, to generate that nadamat, that guilt, that remorse, that regret, that I shouldn't be doing these things. I have these bad habits. I have these bad manners. I have these sins. I have this ghafla, this heedlessness. I have these bad qualities. We can only do so if we pause. Otherwise, we're running a rat race. We don't even get time to reflect where we are going, what we are doing, where are we heading, what has infected us, what kinds of spiritual ailments we have in our heart. People have envy, we have arrogance and pride and lustful thoughts and lustful feelings and thinking ill about others and malice, enmity, hatred for others. We should bring ourselves to task. Like we sometimes have this antivirus program. We run the antivirus and we see and all these Trojans and viruses come out. We should do that for ourselves. That see where am I falling? And then we feel a remorse for that. We feel a regret for that. Feel nadamat, nadma in our heart. And the most important ibadah then that we should do is that we should seek a forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot emphasize this. We cannot emphasize this more. The most important ibadah is that we seek a forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a night which is coming, which is called the 15th of Sha'ban. That is also a very special night. It's the night of Bara'ah, when Allah expiates a person, Allah sets a person free from the fire. And in one hadith, the Prophet gave the example of a tribe which was renowned for having goats, but every person had lots of goats and sheep. And then so much so that when they would bring their animals, the animals would cover the entire region between two mountains. The entire valley would be filled with these animals. And in referring to that tribe and the animals of that tribe, the Prophet ﷺ said that the hair that are there on the back of those animals, the number of hair, that is how many people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive on this one night, the night of the 15th, the middle of Sha'ban. And there are several reports about the fazila that establish the fazila and the merit of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and increasing your ibadah in this particular night. Now, there is no particular ibadah that a person should do, but general ibadah. That a person can pray, a person can do zikr, they can recite the Quran, they can make dua. So they should increase their ibadah generally in this night. They should spend the night in reflection, spend the night in zikr, spend the night in dua, and the most important ibadah for this night is to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is really important, that we make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because tawbah and seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that we want to wash our heart. Because otherwise, what will happen? If we don't wash our hearts, then we approach Ramadan. What happens if the rain is coming? The rain is pouring down. And if we have a bowl which is upside down, then we won't even have one drop in our bowl. Or if the bowl is facing up, but then there is impurity in that, again the water will not remain pure, it will become impure. So that is our condition, that our hearts are either turned upside down, that way we need to make them face properly facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, flip them in the direction towards Allah, and then also remove the impurities in our heart. And the way we can do that is to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the ibadah that we need to do. Very important. That Allah please forgive us. Please forgive us for all the sins that we have done, for all the sins that we remember, for all the sins that we have forgotten. Allah, for all the salahs that we missed, for all the farais that we missed, for all the hukukullah, the hukukul ibad that we missed. So making tawbah, seeking forgiveness from Allah, this is washing our heart. In a hadith it comes that when a person they sin, there is a black spot that comes on the heart. If they seek forgiveness for that sin, Allah washes the heart. That sin, that black spot, it goes away. So we should spend this night in particular seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is so Rahim. Allah is so Kareem. Allah wants to give us. Allah wants to give us. Allah wants to wash us. Allah wants to purify us. That's why this month is coming. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala used to say that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't want to wash us and forgive us, He wouldn't have given us two ni'mat. One is Surah Ikhlas and the other is the month of Ramadan. The fact that Allah gave us the month of Ramadan is a sign that Allah wants to wash us. It's a bahana, it's an excuse. So we should make tawbah. Allah is so Rahim, so Kareem. Allah Ta'ala will wipe away the sins. Allah will wipe away the records of sin. Allah will wipe away the negative effects of sins. And Allah can change our sins into good deeds. So making dua to Allah, making istighfar on this night and sincerely repenting. This tawbah, it can take place in one night. Tawbah can take place in a few minutes. So these are the two things. At tawbah and then trying to stay true to that tawbah. We should be doing that in Sha'ban. This is our preparation for the month of Ramadan. This is how we should be spending the remaining days of Sha'ban, every night making tawbah, and especially the night of the 15th of Sha'ban. And then the one or two more things, and then we'll inshallah come to the end, is the timetable of ibadah that we want in Ramadan. Our mashayikh, they say we should start doing it in Sha'ban. Try building it up. Start gradually and then increase it to the ideal level. Give yourself a target. So obviously, there will be some things that we do extra in Ramadan, which we won't be doing right now. Taraweeh is extra, right? So there will be things, there will be differences. We won't be fasting the whole month in Sha'ban. So I should mention in Sha'ban, we should fast, but then not all the entire month, that's makruh. And also not stop fasting 3 or 4 days before Ramadan, so that we are not weakened. We are not weak. And it doesn't impact or affect our Ramadan. So we should make a timetable. We should give a target, and we should try to start gradually and build it up. And one more thing is that in doing all of this, this is when we start early. This is actually showing to Allah that Allah, we are committed. We want to change. Allah, we are committed to improve. For many of us, we want to show to Allah our commitment. And this is a practical way of showing that Allah, I want to change. And when we show that, then Allah will make it easier for us. And the way to show commitment is not just by intention, but also start from the sacrifices and hard work right now. Deen of Islam will not come easily into our lap. We need to we need to come out of our comfort zone. I think this is one of the biggest things which is pulling us back. That we just want to take whatever deen comes into our lap, and we don't want to do any extra thing. We don't want to do any mushakkat, any hardship, don't want to make any sacrifice, don't want to exert ourselves. In fact, the deen will only come when we exert ourselves. Deen will come through sacrifices. The greater the sacrifice, the greater the acceptance. The greater the qurbani, the greater the kubuliyah in the sight of Allah. We need to remind ourselves, we need to remember, qurbani, the more sacrifice you give for Allah, the more Allah will accept you. This deen is a deen of sacrifice. So this deen is not, we can't have that approach that up till now we were taking it lightly, easily, that whatever comes, whatever is difficult, we leave it. We need to start working. Hard work to come on the deen. Hard work to leave sin. And we want to show to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can do hard work outside of Ramadan as well. Don't wait for Ramadan to show. Begin that hard work right now, that sacrifice right now. Tahajjud will require sacrifice. Fasting will require sacrifice. Reciting Quran will require sacrifice. Making dua with your heart will require sacrifice. With a sacrifice comes kubuliyat. And we have the beautiful story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. When a person sacrifices, Allah gives them kubuliyat. So many sacrifices. Just this one story is enough to highlight the importance of sacrifice. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he is first tested by being thrown inside the fire. Then tested by being told to leave his wife and his infant son in the middle of a desert where there is no water to drink. Tested by being told to leave his son, who is now 7 or 8 or 9 years old, different riwayat, and being told to sacrifice his own son. So many tests, such a big level of sacrifice. And a person is amazed. And then, Allahu Akbar, after all of these sacrifices, when he passed all of these tests, then Allah accepted Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, gave him kubuliyat, and such an incredible kubuliyat, made him Abul Anbiya, the father of all the Anbiya alayhi salam. All the Anbiya alayhi salam who came after him, they came from within his progeny, became his sadaqah jariyah. Allahu Akbar. The Prophet ﷺ came as a acceptance of the dua of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. We have Durood Ibrahimi that we recite every salah. We have the Quran which is telling us that ittabi millata Ibrahim, follow the millat of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah gave honor, Allah gave izzat, Allah gave such kubuliyat. The greater the sacrifice, the greater the kubuliyat. This deen is based upon sacrifice. This deen is a deen where people are willing to give their ultimate level of sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of Allah. Can't we sacrifice our unlawful desires for the sake of Allah? Our unlawful wishes? Our unlawful acts? People were willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of Allah. There were two Sahabi. Before one of the battles, one night before, they are talking to each other. One says that I will make dua, you say Ameen. Then you can make dua, I will say Ameen to your dua. So agreed. Now the first person starts to make dua that, oh Allah, tomorrow we will be fighting the enemy. Allah, let me fight an enemy who's very strong and he attacks me and I attack him, and eventually I'm able to overcome him. I bring him down and then I kill him for your sake, and Allah, you become happy with me. The other person said Ameen. Then the second person started making dua that, oh Allah, tomorrow let me fight someone who's also really strong and powerful, and let it be an intense fight where he attacks me, I attack him, and the fight continues for a long time, and then eventually Allah, he kills me. He martyrs me, and then he cuts my hand, he chops my feet, he chops my neck, my head, and my bits and pieces are scattered all over the place. And Allah, in that manner, I'm presented to you. In that manner, I come before you. And Allah, you ask me that, oh, my servant, what happened to you? What happened to your limbs? And I say that, yeah, Allah, I did all of this. I offer this to you. And Allah, I ask you that you accept this from me. Allah, I offer this to you. I did this out of your love, out of the love that I had for you. Allah, I ask that you accept this from me. And the other Sahabi, he had tears in his eyes and he said, Ameen, and said that your dua was better than my dua. This is our deen. People were willing to give the ultimate level of sacrifice. And this is not just the stories of the Sahaba Ikram. You don't need to look far away. Just look what's happening in Palestine right now. Allahu Akbar Kabira. The amount of sacrifice that they're giving, that they're making. With every passing day, every passing hour. Sacrifice of their family. Sacrifice of their life. They are eating, they're surviving on grass. They're eating the plants, the leaves. And this is reminding us of the Sahaba. This is what the Sahaba used to do. Allah, but there was one battle where the Sahaba, they say that we had nothing to eat with us. There was nothing to eat, nothing edible, nothing that we could eat. And we survived by eating these leaves. And so much so that when we had to pass uh, when we had to relieve ourselves, what came out was also like what comes out from the animals, because we were eating grass and leaves. And Allah Akbar, these are the stories that we're hearing from Palestine. This is right now, people right now, the Ummah right now, our brothers and sisters right now, this is the sacrifice, the extent and the level of sacrifices that they're making. Can't we sacrifice our unlawful desires? Can't we sacrifice these unlawful pleasures, these unlawful yearnings for the sake of Allah? When people, our brothers and sisters, are sacrificing so much for just their survival, for just their iman. Their only jurum, their only crime is their iman. For their iman, they are willing to sacrifice everything. This is the least that we can do. So this is the least that we can do. We should sacrifice. Start some of the sacrifices. And this is, in Arabic, this is called mujahida. And Allah says about mujahida in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Allah makes a promise to us in the Quran that whoever makes this sacrifice for his sake, they make this striving and mujahida for his sake, Allah says, we will surely, undoubtedly, without any doubt, we will guide them. We will guide them not in one way, in multiple ways. Allah will send His guidance to such people, will send His guidance upon them, will send His hifazat upon them, will send His protection, will send His blessings upon such individuals. Allah's promise is there if we make the sacrifice. So if nothing else, just start with a few small baby steps, baby sacrifices, because nothing is small on this deen. Nothing is small. One small step, if we take, Allah's mercy comes racing, running. We come to Allah one handspan, Allah's mercy comes to us an arm's length. We come to Him an arm's length, Allah comes to us running, walking. We come to Him walking, Allah's mercy comes to a person racing and fleeing. Allah reciprocates much, much more, much, much more. So we have this month, make it a month of mujahida, a month of seeking forgiveness, a month of working hard, so that if the month of Sha'ban becomes the month of mujahida, then Allah can make the month of Ramadan the month of mushahida. Mushahida means that then one can then witness that mercy of Allah. They can then enjoy the blessings of Allah. They can, mushahida is like ihsan. ihsan, the level of ihsan, that you worship Allah as if you see Him, as if you see Him. So this is what we need. Do mujahida. And then Allah can give us that mushahida. Allah can give us His love, His nearness, that closeness. Allah can give us His blessings in the month of Ramadan. So if we can remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this month, then Allah will remember us in that month. Try to be zakir in this month. Do zikr of Allah. Remember Him in this month so that you can become the mazkur in that month. You can become the object of His remembrance in that month. This is what Quran says. Fazkuruni azkurukum. You do His zikr, Allah says, I will do your zikr. You remember me, I will remember you. So if we can start right now, if we can have this month of Sha'ban, we can make a niyat, Allah, I'm doing fazkuruni. I'm remembering you, I'm doing zikr of you. Allah, I ask you that in Ramadan you do azkurukum. You remember me. And then the barakah, Allah, remember me in Ramadan in such a way that, Ya Allah, you remember me for my whole life then. For my whole life, Allah, I become the object of your remembrance. That's what Allah is offering to us. That's on the table. That is something we can get. 1 month training, 1 month trying, 1 month commitment, 1 month sacrifice, 1 month doing extra. We can become the object of Allah's remembrance in Ramadan, and by the barakah of Ramadan for the whole life. So I'll just end now that we should be making du'as. And 3 big projects that we want to work on in Sha'ban and then in Ramadan. Big projects. So these were like individual daily tasks that we were mentioning. 3 big projects to work on. These are projects for the entire lifetime. Number 1 is that we want to attain ihsan in our life. Even if we can spend the entire lifetime trying to attain ihsan, it is worth it. We should go for it. Ihsan. What is ihsan? Ihsan comes in authentic hadith that you worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you can't, then worship Him as if He is looking at you. And this was common in the Sahaba. We have to learn this. That remember that Allah is watching you. Not just know this, but have that awareness within us that Allah is looking at you. Allah is with you. Allah is with you. Allah is with you. This is what we need. There was once a wali of Allah. He said that, oh my friend, when you intend to do sin, you shut all the doors through which creation can see you, but you give the least respect to Allah, that Allah can look at you and still you commit that sin. Khashi ar-Rahman. People who fear the Rahman. So ihsan you can get this ihsan through zikr only. More and more zikr of Allah. More and more zikr of Allah. That's one big project. The second big project is that we should work on our salah. It's a task of a lifetime to build your salah, to make your salah, to establish a salah. Not just the outer dimension, but also the inner dimension. The khushu, the khuzu, the inner humility. It's a task of a lifetime. Praying salah every day and in such a way that you are attentive towards Allah Ta'ala and Allah is attentive towards you. That Allah Ta'ala is focusing on you. He is showering His hidayah and noor. And you know what happens is when you pray salah, that is exactly what is happening. That is exact. We don't feel it. We don't realize it, but that is exactly what is happening when you pray salah. That Allah Ta'ala is attentive towards you. Allah Ta'ala is looking at you. He's focusing on you. He's showering His hidayat and nur on you. And even when you say salam, it doesn't end. It doesn't end. When you get up and turn away and attend towards other things, then it ends. Otherwise, if you just stay there till some time, you're sitting and just doing your zikr, tasbihat, or making dua, it continues. Allah is still attentive towards you. You are with Allah. It's a majlis with Allah. Allahu Akbar. You're basking in that company of Allah, in that companionship of Allah. We speak about the companionship of the people of Allah. This is the companionship of Allah Ta'ala Himself. Allahu Akbar. You're basking in that. So we should fix our salah. We can fix with the wordings. Subhanallah. Say that sentence with your heart. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. Say that with your heart. Allahu Akbar. Say that with your heart. So inshallah, this is the second. And the last big project for our life, a lifetime project, is taqwa. Taqwa. There are levels of taqwa. One level of taqwa is something that you can make effort for and then you can acquire it. Beyond that, there is another level of taqwa which is called wahbi, not kasbi. Kasbi is things which you can acquire through your own effort. Wahbi is something which Allah gifts to you, which is not based upon your acquisition, on your effort. You can only get that level of taqwa if He gives you. If you have sidq and sincerity, then Allah can give you. So taqwa, you have to beg every day. You have to beg Allah Ta'ala every day for taqwa. And you have to keep begging Allah Ta'ala for years and years. Allah, I want taqwa. I want a life of taqwa. It's a lifetime goal. It's a big project. Allah, taqwa. Because at-taqwa milakul hasana. It's a combination of all the good things in the dunya and in the akhirah. Taqwa. Beg Allah every day. For years, be persistent in dua. Allah, taqwa. I'll just end now with a story about Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And the Prophet ﷺ, he got nabuwat at the age of 40. And when the Prophet ﷺ started da'wah, the family rejected, his tribe rejected, the people of Taif rejected, and the people of Makkah Mukarramah, they hated Islam intensely. And there were two people who had extreme hatred. One was a mastermind, a very wise person. And the second was a person who had a lot of physical strength. The second was Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh. Both used their abilities greatly against Islam. Anyone who would accept Islam, they would start beating them. And the Prophet ﷺ made dua that Allah, either of these two Umar, Allah make them Muslim. And one day, Sayyidina Umar, he beat a wife and husband who had accepted Islam, and they packed up and they started going for Abyssinia. And Hazrat Umar asked the wife that, why are you packing? She said, because of you. that we are making ourselves refugees because of you. And he just looked at her. And when her husband came back, she told, and he got scared. But she said that he was silent. Maybe he's repenting. He said that no, he is intending to kill the Prophet ﷺ. And there was an announcement that whoever kills the Prophet ﷺ, they will get a reward of 100 camels. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he went for that. He had a naked sword, and someone asked that, what are you going to do with this? And he said, I want to finish this forever. And then that Sahabi said that before you do that, take care of your own house, because your own sister and her husband, she has become a Muslim. So he was further extremely angry, enraged, changed his direction, went to his sister's house. His brother-in-law, he hid himself. The sister opened the door, and the conversation started. And he said that, have you accepted Islam, oh my sister? And she said that, yes, if there is truth in Islam, then what harm is there in my accepting it? And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he was extremely angry. He started beating the brother-in-law, also the sister. And she looked up at the brother and said that, look, we both have had the same milk from the same mother. You can take life from my body, but not Islam. Anyway, this was a moment of Kubuliya, of Hidayah. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh, he said that, okay, you were here, you were reciting something, I want to listen to that. And then the Quran had an impact on his heart. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anh, he went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with a naked sword, but then he became a Muslim. He became a Muslim. He served the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam throughout the life. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anh, he became the Khalifa. And as loyally Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he served the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he served Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu in the same way. In the same way. No hasad, no envy. As loyally he served the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he served Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiallahu ta'ala. And this was the quality that is so distinctive, that is so special about Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala an, his humility. His humility. So humble, that he was once leading an army of tens of thousands. And then at one point he stopped all of that army. He stopped himself, and as a result, his army also stopped. And someone asked him that, Amirul Mu'mineen, why did you stop here? And his tears were flowing. And he said that I was reminding myself of who I used to be before Islam. That when I was young, I used to come here to this valley to take my goats. And I was such a loser that my goats would get lost. And I was beaten by my father Khattab. And he would say that you are a useless person, you can't even take care of the goats. And now I have been made the shepherd of the entire ummah. I stop and the entire army stops. And he had so much khashiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so much fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that even though he was promised Jannah in this world, but Hazrat Huzaifa radiallahu ta'ala an, he was told the names of the munafiqeen by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet also told him that you should not reveal these names to anyone. So when Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala became Amirul Mu'mineen, once he asked Hazrat Huzaifa radiallahu ta'ala an, that Huzaifa, I know that you know the names of the munafiqeen, and I also know that the Prophet ﷺ has prohibited you from telling the names of the munafiqeen. So I'm not asking you to tell me the names of the munafiqeen. I only want to know, is my name in that list or not? Allah Akbar. So scared. And then he was so scared about his own death. He called his son, Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and gave him wasiyat, a counsel, that my son, when I'm about to die, when my ruh is gone, then quickly give me ghusl and bury me quickly. And he said that again. And then after some time, he said that again. So the son, he started thinking that, my father, why are you saying this so many times? And then Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that I don't know what will be my fate. Either I'll be leaving with the pleasure of Allah, and in that case, I want to meet him quickly. Or I'll be going, having made Allah displeased, unhappy with me. And in that case, I don't want to be a burden on your shoulder. These were his last words. So this was the taqwa and the humility of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala an. And we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just before this class we were doing tafsir, and there Allah mentioned that to attain falah, the reason why we mention this story is because to attain falah, to attain success in this dunya as well as akhirah, the first condition that Allah has kept for us is that we need to have the iman like the iman of the Sahaba. That is a model. The stories of the Sahaba, they are a model for us. They are a template for how we are supposed to live our life. Allah says in Quran that the yardstick for the iman that is accepted by Allah is the iman that the Sahaba had. If you have that iman, you will be rightly guided, you will be victorious, you will be successful. The ummah, which is right now downtrodden, the ummah, which is right now weak, the ummah, which is on a decline, the way to bring about the rise of the ummah, the first step to bring about the rise of the ummah is to get the iman, that strong iman, that powerful iman that the Sahaba had. That is the first step. We have to build on our iman. With this weak iman, how can we do anything with this weak iman? This weak iman cannot even take us from the bed to the masjid. How can this weak iman uplift humanity? How can this weak iman cause the rise of the Muslim ummah? This weak iman cannot even prevent us from lowering our gaze, cannot even prevent us from misdirecting our gaze. We're so weak. How can this weak iman then establish the ummah and give izzat to the ummah? We need to strengthen our iman. We need to have iman which is iman-e kamil, iman which is without doubt, without bila taraddud, which doesn't admit of any hesitancy, of any skepticism. Solid iman, absolute, unbreakable, unshakable, like the iman of Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiallahu ta'ala, like the iman of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, that when they would hear something from the Prophet ﷺ, that would be enough for them. So this is also the month of iman, the month of nurturing, nourishing, strengthening, reviving the iman. And this is the way through which we can also not just uplift ourselves. Allah has mentioned in the Quran, this is the recipe, the method by which we can attain falah, success, izzat in this dunya. May Allah Ta'ala give all of us the tawfiq that we can implement whatever was said. May Allah Ta'ala grant us the tawfiq that we can prepare in this month of Sha'ban in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in such a way that we can inshallah come to Ramadan in the best of manners. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the best of preparation, enable us to restore ourselves on this path of remembrance, this path of zikr, this path through which we can return back to Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the best of Sha'ban, the best of Ramadan. Allahumma barik lana fi Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Make a short dua, inshallah. Subhana rabbil al-wahhab. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبي خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين جزاكم الله خير السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته